Many years ago, maybe 30, I saw him in Edinburgh, and I'd never seen anything like that. And so I was determined. I spent the rest of my life wooing him so he would be my closest friend. And then we went to the Royal Shakespeare Company together. I only went in there so I could be near Alan. And then we lived together. He wasn't my boyfriend, but I got to watch that early acting, and no one ever had charisma like Alan. So I knew ultimately he'd have to be famous because there had never been anything like it. And he played Jaques and Ferdinand in The Tempest, and I and Juliet Stevenson were always handmaidens. But we got to watch him up close. And then he was a great comedian. I don't know if people knew that, but I would sometimes give him lines, and he could deliver far greater than any comedian I'd ever seen. But great actors really can do comedy. But I have never met anybody who could do it like him.
It sounds as if you're, you can't really come up with many more compliments to shower on him, but I am going to encourage you to squeeze some more out because you were also involved in writing and directing with him. Is that correct?
He directed me for about 30 years. He was very harsh and told me not to be so desperate. And I didn't really catch on for about 40 more years because he could be so dry that when Juliet Stevenson and I were on stage, he would just give us a look that was, I can't even say. The eyes would just make us crumple in the middle of the show.
Was it the same sort of look that he used with Hans Gruber and Severus Snape?
Yeah, but this was comedy. He can switch it on and off. I mean, basically, it's as deep as you get. So you can read this guy. You can read when he's going for wit, and you can read when he's going for cruelty. And sometimes he mixes them. And that's the most exciting of all, even in real life. It's a fine edge. But when he gets funny, it's sort of like finding gold. And he can be cruel, too. But, you know, if you tame him, he'll give you the joyous side of him, and really generous.
I guess if people have heard of Alan Rickman, it will be because of those roles as a super baddie in film or on stage. I just wonder, was it the fact that he was able to be full throttle evil, but at the same time have that nuance?
When I met him, there was no baddie. I mean, they've used the English now to portray evil for some reason. You know, as I said, he was the kind of witty character in Shakespeare, or the more sardonic character. He only became the baddie because nobody could deliver like that. And I'd say every other baddie got their job because Alan said no, because he was so versatile. Then he did Truly, Madly, Deeply. Then he did Pride and Prejudice. I wouldn't say the guy in Les Liaisons was a baddie. It was the sexiest thing most women had ever seen. And nobody ever topped that performance. Nobody.
But I guess you are right. It has become a bit of a cliche for a Brit to be the villain. Was he the trailblazer?
For this generation, I suppose. I'm not sure if people who played the villain were ever the ones who stole the show. You know, they weren't the protagonists. So I don't remember any. The stars were the good guy. But I think Alan did start it. I think people wanted more from him. They didn't care about Kevin Costner or Tom Selleck. They cared about Alan Rickman. But that's because nobody acts like him. There was no actor like him.
What do you think excited him then, especially later on, given that he was so versatile, given that he did write, given that he directed, given that he seemed to have a free pass to some of the biggest roles on stage and screen? What do you think got him excited, especially in the later years of his career?
He always liked to do he never liked to fall into a cliche. So with Dogma or with these films, when he'd find something with a rich vein, he'd pursue it. He never sold out. Money couldn't lure him. So I think he got a kick when it was almost an impossible character to play, but he could plummet it. He really knew how to do the bizarre. Characters that you thought were insurmountable, he could crack. I think that excited him, and then he did A Little Chaos, which to me was a masterpiece. But, of course, I think people have trouble, especially in America. You can't cry and laugh at the same time. Either you have a laugh track to indicate it's funny, or somebody dies in the end and we hear the theme song to the Titanic.
Ruby, I thank you. I really appreciate your time on what must be a very sad day. Thank you. It was a terrific tribute.
Well, I know I never loved anyone like that, so thank you.